Hello and welcome to Friday night's Ask Sid. And I'm back on Friday. I had one day of a Saturday and I decided, you know what, let's go back to Friday. So, welcome everyone. Hope you're enjoying your Friday. I know it can't have got any better than Thursday night. We'll discuss that quite briefly just before we move on. But I'd just like to welcome everyone who's joining us today. Thank you for joining us and let's enjoy the show because I'm hoping with Paul, tonight's show is going to be an absolute beauty because there is a lot of questions on people's minds after last night's performances, and who better than to ask Sid on a Friday night. Like to welcome Paul tonight with me as my special guest. We had some chat yesterday after the defeat. Didn't we just? Yeah, an hour and a half, and we could have gone on for 3 hours. And I've managed to get Paul on with me tonight. Thank you for coming on, Paul.
Right,
how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I feel a little bit better today after how many hours of just when we were talking earlier. I've just like most people, I've gone through apathy, anger. I'm kind of less angry now and a little more contrite about it all. So actually, I think it's a good setup, Sid. Actually, I think talking about let's start to get, especially with Conte's announcements and the way you spoke.
Absolutely.
I think this is timely for everyone.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been saying this, haven't we, for the last season, 2 seasons. We've had Poch, we've had Mason, we've had Mourinho, we've had Nuno. Now we've got Conte, but the players haven't changed, the attitudes haven't changed. And what's really peed me off today was reading a few quotes from Harry Kane where he's gone around and said, yeah, shit performance, but we move on, we carry on, we can't play. How many times has he said that? Another bad performance tonight, we're sorry, we're going to move on to the next one. We've done that last season, we did that against, Vitesse. We seem to be doing it week in, week out,
absolutely,
month in, month out, year in, year out, and managers are going. But none of that deadwood that is there is still there, not going anywhere. And it's now an insult, absolute insult, because last night's performance, honestly, it was shocking, absolutely shocking.
Yeah, I used the Bill Murray holding a groundhog about 4 times today after that came. Yeah, it was just, it's come on.
I mean,
enough is enough.
This is it. And it's good to see Conte coming out now because he must have been sat there thinking, what did Paratici sell me? What did he tell me? And what have I walked into? I know that some of these lot are crap, but by God, are these lot crap? And what has he faults? All these faults. What's the word I'm looking for? All these false pretenses, all this stuff that he's giving me. This is how it's gonna be. This is what it's like. Blah blah blah. And he's probably walked in and he thought, you know what? The only thing good about this club is the training ground and the ground. Everything else is crap. And
but he has used that language, hasn't he, Sid?
Yeah,
he actually, the word culture came out in his response. So I'm not sure he is that blind to it. I think Paratici would have known this.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think he's underestimated how his name has had such ill effect.
Yeah,
I think that's probably what shocked him.
Yeah, 100%.
Because he did look shell shocked in that response. It was a good 20 minutes, wasn't it, in total? I think end to end. So
But the good thing about it is he's actually speaking facts, and he's saying, like, I think the latest quote I've heard is, this team is clearly not good enough, and I want players that want to fight for the badge and play for the team, which that itself means he now knows that some of these players are gone. They're done and dusted.
Yeah, but one thing I noticed, Sid, and I was picking through that because knowing that I was coming on today, I did have a look at look at the squad and alternatives as well. But what was telling when I went through it, I thought, do you know what? I'm constantly looking and have always, a lot of us have been looking at attitude, their approach to the game. But Conte specifically linked attitude and quality together.
Yeah.
So he's not just talking about, which is why I said I said in a tweet that actually his response doesn't bode necessarily quite well for us wanting the academy players to come up.
Yeah.
Because we go from the attitude. We want the attitude of the player. So why don't you throw in a Harvey White or a Niall John? But actually, I think Conte's divorced himself from that. He's saying if they're good enough, if they've got the quality and the attitude, that's what I want. And that, to me, that was music to my ears.
Yeah. It's true. And just to welcome Lloyd Hughes, Spursy141, Cody Mack, thank you for joining us, guys. And I can see already people putting in a few comments. One thing I will say on that, Paul, what you just mentioned about the academy players, which I know Spursy141 won't be happy with, like myself, is I've just heard today, or I don't know how true the rumours are, but they're looking at sending McIntyre on loan with about 5 potential teams. And he's probably one of the players out of anyone that I wanted to see in that first team, because by God, he would give you 150%, even 5% more than half of that Tottenham team that played last night.
But that's it, isn't it, Sid? That's what we've got to say. Okay, if he's saying, attitude, yes, quality and attitude, and I must profess, I've not seen enough of Markandé. I've seen some of his under 23 results and performances, and his performance charts look decent.
Yeah,
but and for the first time ever, I went through that team's performance charts.
Yeah.
Actually, from an academy perspective, based on that £147 million academy, which even Chelsea would crave for, there's not a lot there, mate. There isn't really a lot. There isn't a plethora. So it's an interesting question.
It is. It's an interesting question, and like you said, I think a lot of these academy boys, the Divines and the Johns and all them lot, I think come January, they won't be at the club. They'll be loaned out somewhere to gain experience and then see what happens with that. Just touching on yesterday's performance, I think Cody Mack is saying here, I think the worst part of yesterday was that it did shock me, which is true. I've come to expect results like that. Conte is fighting not only poor players, but a losing culture at Spurs. He's fighting Spursy. 100% agree with you, Cody, there. I think, we said this against Leeds. We've said this many times before. We're going into these games against these lower teams and we're expecting to demolish them 4-5-0. And we're coming out scraping results, getting beat. And it's, it's not a shock. It's not a shock.
No, it's not. And I agree with Cody. And we've #Spursy is an overused phrase, and I think it belongs to the fans. Really, it's our sort of, we've coined it, haven't we, as a way of almost waking up in the morning knowing that you can predict performance. I could have predicted that Spursy. I think this is different. I don't feel #Spursy about this. I am absolutely almost at a loss, I think, at how bad it's got and how endemic it is through the whole squad. It's more than #Spursy. It really, really worries the shit out of me how bad we've got, and how, when we start to go through this squad, hopefully now, who you'd have in and who you'd have out, it is really concerning as a so-called big club. It can go, if Levy doesn't back Conte, this could go, anywhere. I mean, it's frightening.
Yeah. I think there's already a few people talking about a couple of the academy players we've mentioned. VHS guy is saying McIntyre is never going to be a Premier League player, and it's okay to say that. Yeah. Let's stop being realistic and stop this wistful thinking, all this hope that Levy's of this world trading. I'm not saying he's going to make it into that first team, and I'm not saying he's going to start first team week in, week out. But what I'm saying is, at the moment, we've got some players that don't want to be at that club. Now, I'd rather have players that are doing well at under 23s or showing a bit of passion than having the likes of, we'll go into that later, certain players that just don't give a shit, picking up the 100 grand, 150 grand wages and just turning up, not putting in the performances, making Spurs fans go even wilder and, start going apeshit. But it's like Cody Mack said, it's not a shock, is it? You can't change certain players' attitudes. You can't, if they're not going to want to wear the shirt and play. If you can't get geared up to play NS Mora on a Thursday night, it was 635th in the world rankings or whatever, then you've got no hope in the Premiership of Burnley's, Norwich's, Man United's, Liverpool's. If that doesn't gear you up, then you know what? You need to go and find another club.
But and the only way I can describe them is, we've often said it, is payday players. I mean, it's
100%.
paycheck players. I almost feel like Tottenham have become representative of the rampant commercialism that's gone on with players and player power, and we're almost the bastion of saying how players can say, fuck you fans, fuck you club, you pay me hundreds of thousands of pounds. I don't care whether I turn up or not, you're still going to pay me.
100%.
And that's how it feels on that pitch. When I look at them, I just feel you are absolutely shafting us. 100%. And it's not good enough.
I mean, my wife, a couple of weeks ago, I can't remember what game it was, we was watching it. And I said this to the lads and the girls in the group as well. There was one game, I can't remember under Nuno it was, and we were shocking. And her words were, these are professional footballers. If I was them, or anybody else, I would be ashamed. I would dock their wages and I would stop taking wages, because as a professional footballer, I should not be putting in these performances. And she went on to one, and I'm trying to get her on stream, but she just won't come on. But she was speaking facts.
Yeah, 100%. But it's unfortunately that's I'm not going to say it's naivety, but it's the world with which they will operate in terms of contracts, and we just know that's not the way it works. And we all start to bring in players like Mark and Day, Niall John, all those players, but that, it's only because we want a size 9 kicked up the first team's players' arses, to kickstart the other players. And I think you can do that in a targeted fashion. But what Conte is saying is this is cultural. This is a seismic shift that we've got to go through. And it's interesting that 18 months is. I mean, I'm quite enjoying it now, because I am really looking forward to this January window. For the 100%. First time ever, that yellow screen at Sky will be absolutely pertinent to the future. The next 5 years, in my view, are going to be sort of marketed by this January transfer window. Because you cannot wash it. You cannot whitewash it in January.
True. Right, we've got a comment from JC, and then after that we'll move on to the subject of the matter tonight. So JC saying, hi Sid, would you describe this as a birthing pains for Conte? We have to go through this pain to start our rise again. Is 18 months enough time? Right. So for me,
I like that. I like the birthing pain.
Birthing. I think for Conte, he came into this club realizing he had a mission, because Nuno couldn't do it. Poch started it and then wasn't backed. Mourinho came in, didn't do it. Mason obviously stopgap. Nuno came in, just nothing was gone whatsoever. He's now come in thinking this is worse than what I thought. However, 18 months for me is enough time for him to start. Like you said, Paul, January has to be the beginning, because we got rid of a couple of players, which he didn't get rid of, but Nuno did. But come January, I think the first part will be to get rid of a few, get him the 3 players or 4 that he wants. That's the beginning. Then the summer window comes in. It continues to build. We've also got then the January window again. So that's 3 windows he's got. And in 18 months, I think, give Conte the tools, give him the money to go and buy the players that he wants. And I think 18 months is enough time for him to kickstart Spurs' rise again. in that 18 months, if we win a trophy, might be good, but it's a good start. I mean, 18 months is more than ample time for him to actually kickstart Spurs again. What do you think, Paul?
I think because you're referring to the transfer windows, I think absolutely. Because but the big but is if those 2 or 3 transfer windows are heavily invested in. And I think that's going to be a massive net hit to the P&L at Tottenham Hotspur. Levy will have to suck it up. He'll have to, write it into assets. However he's going to do it, he's going to have to do it, because this is potentially the PR nightmare.
Of course it is.
That Levy just can't afford to have because you were there at that same game when the whole of the South Stand started booing at half time. I've never seen that. I've never heard the South Stand started chanting Levy out. I've not heard that before. So it's quite telling. So in a perverse way, I'm kind of excited by it all. And I think JC's right. I love the term birthing pains. I think it's like, is it the birth or is it the death? I mean, the spectrum is really that far, isn't it? It's either the death of the Levy era, or it's, come on, Conte, I want you to put pressure on this club and tell me what these players look like. I
think it's the beginning of the end to a new beginning. If you know what I mean. Right. Lloyd usually saying here, we won't fix the problems in January. We need a full summer window too. Players generally don't move in January. Yeah, that's 100% what we're saying. So
I agree with that.
Yeah, and the next
but the trigger is January. 100%. It has to be. It has to be.
He has to start somewhere, and January is going to be the one.
And because of what's happened previously, let's remember what we've gone through. We've gone through COVID. The pressure on football is huge. But mark my words. I keep using mark my words. I don't know why I brought that up. But I think teams and squads are going to be really healthily invested in January. I just think clubs are it's going to be a really, really high spending January.
Yeah, I've got
convinced of it.
I've got a few people asking the questions, but about tonight, and Mike Hustler, he's already asked me the same question, and to that, Mike has asked the question. So, without further ado, let's start. The whole point of tonight's conversation is whose numbers come up. Now, when I thought about this yesterday, I thought about myself in the local park. They got
playing.
Hell, not playing.
Replacing Dele.
Yeah, replacing Dele. I was just walking and I'm thinking to myself, in the park, you got the lakes and then you got the boats there, and you sit there and you go and get the boat, and then you go out and you've got half an hour to do it, and you've gone to 35 minutes, and then you hear the voice, number 24, come in, your time is up. Well, guess what? On that, I have got a few people in my boats waiting and ready, and unfortunately, Number 2, please come in. Your number has come up. Number 2, please come back and leave the club. And that number 2, as you can see on screen, is Mr. Doherty, Matt Doherty. Tell me about it. Can you not see it?
No, it's not come up, but I was just about to say it's Doherty.
Well.
But I think that boat's pretty well sailed. Now, I don't know if I'm live and Sid's gone and I'm left on. But yeah, Doherty, as shocking as it gets.
I'm back. Sorry, guys. I don't know what happened there.
I don't even know if I was in there or not.
Yeah, I've got cut off. Right. So, Number 2. Your number has come in. So please come back. Stop rowing. And this guy is done at the club after Thursday's performance. Mr. Doherty, seriously, you have to leave the club because you cannot do a simple pass. You cannot even run down the wing and cross the ball in. What is the point of you being on a football pitch playing for Tottenham Hotspurs?
Yeah, the thing is, this is going to be quite an easy run. I think there's going to be some really obvious players, and Doherty, ever since he's come at the club, I don't get it. None of us do. I think it's a move on, Sid. I mean, his control. He doesn't even look up when he's running with the ball. I mean, he you know, I Saturdays I've got an under-13 squad, right? And seriously, I look at him and I could put up time and time again. This is not how to play football. No. It's quite incredible how he's earning tens of thousands of pounds a week.
Yeah,
for that drivel, it's incredible.
Absolutely.
So
I mean,
Mike's.
Mike's 100%. Doherty is a
it's
footballer.
tough to sort of, you can't. And one thing I would say, we hate the fact that they earn money, and we'd all love to do the same. They are human beings at the end of the day. The guy was signed by our club, so I've got nothing against him, but he should not be playing in the Premier League in my view. He should be Championship at best.
Yeah.
Move on, I think.
Simply AC saying here, and do you agree about this? Matt Doherty, the worst signing in Spurs history. Do you agree with that one?
I think he's saying in history.
In history. not just.
I must admit, I'm even shocked that he's shown anything in training for Conte to even play him.
Yeah.
I mean, what he's doing in training, I don't know. Maybe it's the pressure of the game. Maybe he can't deal with pressure on the pitch. And he worked for Wolves because he was operating in a different system, but in the sense of he was encouraged to hit that byline and crosses. I mean, his stats were actually really decent for Wolves.
They were. He scored a few, and he was always bombing down that wing. It was like
this Devon keeps turning up, doesn't he?
He's what? Sorry,
this Devon.
Yeah.
Obviously, our club's far more interesting than whoever Devon supports.
It looks like it, doesn't it?
Keep it coming. I love it.
I know. I have nothing against Doherty, just his footballing ability. 100%.
Absolutely.
He's just not good enough. What's he gone?
Send him to Arsenal.
JC saying use Doherty as a make weight in a deal for Max Aarons. That's a great shout. I mean, I did Sid says in the summer, and Aarons was one of the players as a right back as an option, and we was heavily linked, and then for some reason it disappeared, and we ended up getting Royale. So
I agree. I'm with you, JC, in the potential of that, but as we know, Sessegnon coming from Fulham, scoring, from defensive positions.
Hold that for.
That Max Aarons thing, I'm not convinced.
I think there's a few other clubs after Max Aarons, and
Conte wouldn't. I don't think Conte would have him.
Do you not think so?
Conte wants higher grade. No, and this is what I'm saying. I think this desire and quality that Conte talks about. I tell you what, Levy. He's got a shock.
Yeah. Lloyd Hughes is saying, I think Conte was having a last look at these players before they get to walk the plank. Yeah. Cody Mack, I don't like Doherty's hair. Cody Mack, and he can't elevate a football. That is so true. How many times did he try? And try and cross a ball, and it just hit the floor, and he didn't get anywhere, did it?
But I've got one thing, and I know we're going to go through all these players, and like any team, whether it's football, whether it's in a working professional environment, on a building site that operate together.
Yeah.
Once you start that slippery slope, everyone's performance levels drop in the same way that Poch elevated a lot of our players and got us ticking. They became world beaters. You know, that can go the other way. So I think I'd like to temper all of this analysis with a lot of these, and we're seeing it with Kane. You know, when the whole team drops, everyone's performances drop. So we've got to judge these on almost is there evidence there? So, you know, Doherty, we've not seen it at Tottenham. So I think that's a fair, you know, if we had a big red button, you know.
His boat's sunk. Joe is saying Max Aaron is not a top 4-5 club.
Yeah, no, I agree.
What's the point?
I agree.
Maybe, maybe.
And Conte wouldn't buy it. I'm pretty convinced Conte wouldn't have him.
Yeah, right.
It just reminds Spurs players of like the Kyle Walker type, doesn't it? You know, that sort of bombing down, but...
Yeah. Okay, next one. I think Doherty's boat's come to shore, so we've got him and he's gone. Next one. This might be a little bit controversial. I don't know, but the next number that has been called is number 6, Davinson Sanchez. Please come back. You have overplayed and overstayed your welcome at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. What do you think of number 6?
Well, you know, again, I'm going back on evidence. When he first came, he had a couple of dodgy performances, but he also went into a period where he could show what an agile, accurate tackling defender he can be.
Yeah.
But every single time when you see his show reels, when you see when he shows he can tackle, the reason being is he's often the wrong side of a player and he's having to recover. So he's got speed in recovery and he puts that tackle in. So it all looks fantastic. But actually it's because he made the error in the first place.
Yeah.
Yesterday, Bambi on ice. I mean, it was just
shocking. Did you just read that quote then? Because Lloyd Hughes is exactly what you just said. He's like Bambi on ice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know what? It's not the first time he's done that Bambi on ice. There's one that's etched into my head and it's never ever going to go away. And that was against Man City when he went to the floor and I don't know what he was doing. But do you know what?
You can't do that all too often. You know, there are certain players that do that. Kyle Walker, we loved him. He was a great player. But he did, you know, he used to do the same. So you used to say, okay, you know, there were times where he'd lose his player. But because of his speed, he'd recover. Sanchez does it all too often. And yesterday, when he slipped over, you know, I had a couple of, you know, texts saying, you know, that was unfortunate. It wasn't unfortunate.
It was unfortunate.
The guy has got really bad body posture, body positioning to get himself set for a tackle or to guide the player out to the byline or to the line.
Yes,
just not a mature defender in that sense. So I'm complete number 6.
And
for me.
And to not only get done once, but to get twice within 10 seconds was the worst thing because he took him on the right and then he cut him in on the left and he took him out twice. So it was just shocking. Joe is saying here there's a spot for Sanchez on Dancing on Ice with the with the current celebrities. Ed M, good evening. Thank you for joining. He's saying, I knew when we signed Sanchez from Ajax, he was a looper. Mr. Hustler is saying Sanchez is like a glitch in a FIFA game. You find
that glitch? Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Repito vu.
Yeah, Sanchez can't play on the left side ever again after yesterday. We need a left-sided centre back immediately. Sven Botman would be ideal. But Cody Mack, if he can't play as a left-sided centre back, is there space for him to play as a centre back or a right-sided centre back then, or would you rather have him shipped?
I just can't. It's such a, you know, especially under Conte, you know, with that 3 in the back, it is you have to have those 3 players have to be at the top of the tree. They have to be high-end quality defenders. And you know, as you start to go through, I'm going to probably be quite contentious with most of our defence. To be, you know, there's a clue. I just don't think we've got it. Not to run the Conte type of, you know, three at the back.
Yeah.
No chance.
No. Yeah, Simply AC saying here, Sanchez is not.
This list, Sid, is going to be long.
No, I've kept it short and simple, but Simply AC saying here, Sanchez is absolutely rubbish defensively. He gets caught out of position far too regularly and slips in key moments. He has cost us a lot of goals. Totally agree.
And the point about, you know, we've seen defensive partnerships in the past. The one thing about Sanchez is he does not instill confidence in other defenders around him. That's the problem.
Yeah.
You know, Ledley King, Dawson and King together previously used to be a great partnership. Bang on. Okay. Dawson became a little more suspect when Ledley King wasn't next to him.
Yeah.
He dropped down a level. So when you're talking about this three at the back, you need bang on, confident, I'm going to deal with this. And this is why Jan, Vertonghen, you know, and Toby worked so well, because they knew each other. Yeah, we ain't got 100%. That. We have not got that.
No. And this is why now he's I think even after yesterday's performances by Sanchez and a couple of others, he's now wants more than one or two defenders now, because he's now realized that I don't need one, I need at least two, maybe, well, two definitely to play alongside Romero, and who knows, maybe come summer, defensively, half of that, well,
I think January needs one, he needs a
100%. I think he's asked for two. He's asked for two, so let's see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's one. Romero, but
yeah, I mean, Sanchez was one of these, he's hit and miss. He comes on, he plays good every now and then. Leeds, I think Cody Mack said he done all right when he came on at Leeds. But the problem is what Jay and a few people have said, you cannot trust him for 90 minutes without making a mistake or doing something silly that's going to cost us a goal or the game. And how long do we persevere with him? Because at some point you've got to say, do you know what, that's it. That's why I've put him on that boat and he's been called in now, and
that's the $6 million question that you know, how long do we persevere? And that is the ultimate question about this squad. We've persevered and allowed this far too long, and we've got to call this squad out for what it is.
Exactly. Right, my next one I'm calling in. This, I know I'm going to get a bit of controversy on this one, because I'm going to put it out there and let's see what people in the comments boxes are saying, and even you, what you're going to say. And I'm calling in number 19. Please come back. Your time is up at Spurs. Number 19, Ryan Sessegnon. Please come back. Thoughts on Ryan Sessegnon?
Yeah, so interesting. So I've got a list here, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm not going to go through it because I know you're going to go through, you know, whatever. But he's not on my first list.
Okay.
I've got a second question mark list, which are hugely contentious.
Yes.
And he's on my question mark list purely because it's a bit like my previous about the kind of Max Aarons. We bought him, you know, from Fulham at a time. I think we paid like 20 odd million for him.
30 million we paid for him.
Yeah, it was certainly 25.
Yeah.
And he's, you know, he's a big lad, bigger than you expect. But I don't know. He's just not proved it. He's not brought it in from Fulham, because he's scored at least 8, 9, 10 goals per season.
Man of the match performances almost every week at Fulham.
Yeah, and very confident player.
Yes,
but he would have, you know, almost perfect in those Rose Walker days of, you know, bombing down towards the byline. I just don't think we play the right game from him. I think he's suffered from injuries. He's clearly a talent, but the chinks, the green shoots are so minimal. My instinct is there is something inherently wrong with Sessegnon in the sense of his back. Let's go back to the acid test that Conte's going for. Desire versus quality. Yeah. What we saw yesterday was probably desire because he was put up in front with Conte, and Conte even named him. The quality severely lacking. So
Yeah.
he's question mark, but I certainly wouldn't put him on the boat yet.
Okay, I'll give you my reasoning. He came to Spurs from that absolute superb season at Fulham, and he'd done really, really well at Fulham. After that, he didn't, in his first season, he didn't do it for us. And I agree what Marlon's saying here. Been here for a while and done nothing, even on loan, not confident at all. So at that first season at Spurs, he sort of played a few, got injured. Then we loaned him out. I think he's been out twice on loan. Then we've just bought him back off his other loan period where he'd done quite well. For me, he's not the player he was at Fulham. His confidence is being shot.
It was Hoffenheim, wasn't it?
Yeah, but he done all right. But it was just, for me, I think his confidence is shot. He's been injured for so long, and then he's just come into it. Okay, he's not had enough game time yesterday, but the 2 fouls that he committed within the first 20 minutes, you get your first yellow card. Okay, that's fine. But then you tread carefully, don't you? And you just play the game out.
Yeah, you do. But I've reflected a bit on it, and I just think, the pressure on the lad is huge. He's been given, he's got a world-class manager. He wants to do well. It wasn't petulant. It was just stupid. But, maybe that's the desire versus quality. He gave the desire, he gave the approach. He knows this is his chance. I've reflected on it, and I think it's a bit harsh.
Well,
Sid, there are plenty in this list.
Yeah,
plenty bigger players ahead of Sessegnon that we should be putting on this boat.
Well, I did say that this one's going to be a bit of a controversial one because, Good Beats is saying here, says he's been injured and not had a good run since he's been at Tottenham. I agree with you. Another one is saying he's only 23, so he needs confidence. It's true, but
absolutely.
If he's fully fit now, he comes back. You're going to play him he's on the left side, right? So do you start with Reguilon or do you start with him? That's going to be the question, isn't it? Who's he going to start with?
That's where the confidence comes in, and I agree with that last comment. Where and this is where we've got Sessegnon is a classic example. Sorry, I got my computer's just about to die.
That's right.
Sessegnon's a classic example of where if we were flying and he was injury free and he got some games, rather than being thrown in as the answer, he would fly. Which is why I wouldn't put him on the boat. I think I would keep him. We've not seen enough evidence either way. So
I mean, I did say it's going to be a controversial one, but for me, honestly, I want to see the best. When he was at Fulham, where he was running down. All right, he was in the shot. He terrorized some defenders and constantly man of the match awards, and he was scoring goals. He was setting up. I think he had so many assists that season as well. So, okay, I'll allow him to go back out on the boat. But I'll only allow him to go halfway.
One all.
Yeah, I think so. Muljoy saying, I think Sessegnon got caught up in all the fist pumping after the Leeds game and tried to show he can do it, but 2 silly fouls.
Yeah, I think that's childish. A fair assessment.
Yeah.
I do.
I think Hotspur Sammy saying if Sess left, I wouldn't cry. Okay, that's fine. And then Muljoy saying I'd give him another 12 months. Okay, so let's move on to my next person who I am going to call out. I was a big fan of this guy. My boys absolutely love this guy. But unfortunately, number 28, Tanguy Ndombele, you've got to come in now because we've bided the time with him. We've sat there waiting for performances. And yesterday, from the moment we kicked off, he did not seem interested at all. He was, what am I doing here? If yesterday was the game for him to come out and show Conte, my name is Ndombele, I want to be the first name on that sheet in the middle, he absolutely failed miserably. And he put in a shocking performance.
Yeah, it's time and time again, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it will always create the emotive response. Somebody like Ndombele, you know, Spurs live off this. You know, got Gaza in the background there. You know, we have midfielders, you know, for fun in the history. You know, Hoddle, Van der Vaart, Ginola. You know the list of sort of creative midfielders.
Yeah.
And then you know, Musa Dembele, who left,
Yeah.
was such a pivotal part of our success in that in those years.
Yeah.
That we all think Ndombele is going to be that new Musa. And he's shown little bits of it. I actually, for once, I as a pundit, I don't often agree with Glenn Hoddle. Loved him as a player. I'm not always a big favourite of his punditry. However, on Ndombele, he's actually bang on. He always talks about the way he plays like he's on a Sunday, you know.
Yeah.
You know, in a car park doing tricks, and he's bang on.
Yeah.
He's just unique consistency. You're at the heart. You're at the heartbeat of the team is where Ndombele is. And that's what Musa Dembele.
Yeah, exactly.
It started from him. He held the ball and he pushed it forward. He took on players. Shit happened.
Exactly.
Sorry, mate.
Take the game by the scruff of the neck. And what Mojo's saying here, Ndombele,
not there.
No, he's got to go. Waste of money. He's never going to do it for Spurs. 60 million we paid for him. One of our super chats from David J. Bisco, and Ndombele has had more than enough time. Get rid 100%. Because how long are you going to give him? We said, all right, he doesn't like Mourinho. Okay, he doesn't like Nuno. Is that the same with Conte now? He doesn't like Conte.
Tanguy, he's had it. He had it in previous clubs, and you know it's all about you. You just know what the Daniel Levy walking into Mourinho, walking into Nuno, walking into Conte. Well, not Conte, but the previous two managers are saying, I need a tune out of Ndombele.
Not going to get it.
And I need a tune out of Dele Alli. And I want to make sure that Kane stays. They're the three conversations that have happened, I reckon.
Yeah, 100%.
At the high end.
Yeah.
And to be honest, Ndombele, sorry, mate. What we would hate the most as this is Spursy. It'll go somewhere and fucking be a baller.
100%.
That's what Spursy's about.
Yeah.
But we've got to grow up. We've got to say, I'm sorry, mate, but you've been in what, 3 seasons? It's got to be.
Almost, yeah.
Maybe 4. I don't know. It's 3.
We paid 60 million for him. He's consistently not delivered. And every time we've asked, we've seen bits and bats of it. So, like Lloyd is saying here, definitely, I've lost my patience with Ndombele. He's a luxury player who suits Barca or Madrid. We need grafters.
Or we need somebody. It's not just grafting, is it? It's that. It's being able to control, be confident enough. We need a controller in there. We forget how good Musa was. He was so good.
Do you know what?
One of the best players we've had in midfield for a long time.
I think even the fat controller could have done a better job than him. Just welcoming everyone that's joined us tonight. Thank you for your comments as well. There's a lot of comments coming in. We've got one from Good Bits International and ENT. Sorry, he needs to go on the ball. Not creative enough. You can't play him as a 2 or a 3. How many assists has he got off the ball? Is shocking. Correct. Moljoy saying he couldn't lace Gaza's boots. Yeah. We've got JC is saying here, you can have all the talent in the world, but when your attitude stinks like Ndombele's, then he's better off a million miles away from N17. 100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is a lot of people agreeing with this one. What does Mr. Stevens say? Good evening, Simon Stevens, one of our regulars. So he's basically saying we need a change in policy. We can't keep players like Ndombele on the books. Got to take a cut price when you can, and we need to buy to improve the first 11, not cheap buys, and hope for the best. Now, there was a few teams linked with Ndombele in the summer, right? I don't know why we just didn't get rid and get whatever we could recuperate. We weren't going to get 60 million, right? But with 30 million, 40 million, even if to Barcelona or whoever.
I can never
understand. No,
well, it's not that. No, I just, mate. Unless you got the inside track, Sid, I wouldn't believe in the the ITK sites and all that. I just think very few people know. Levy's not that stupid, but he is going to have to write off some assets.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. Now, his model, he's going to have to throw out the window for 2 or 3 windows.
Yeah,
if he doesn't, it's game over again.
Yeah. Do you agree with what David's saying here? When players look at attitudes of the likes of Ndombele, it's human nature to think, if he ain't going to bother, why should I?
Hang on. That's the culture. That is what Conte's calling out.
Yeah, that is what it is. And this is the thing, 100%. Isn't it? You've got players like that just don't want to give a shit, and they're on exactly what he's saying. They're on 200 grand or whatever they're on, right? And if his attitude stinks on the pitch, and then you've got other players around you, like you've got the likes of Kane, Son, and the other players, and they're thinking, hold on, this guy is supposed to be in the middle, creating all the chances for us to score. If he can't be bothered doing it, then why should I? If he's on 200 grand and not earning his money, why should I do it? So yeah, we agree with you on that.
That's the culture they've created, and I think this is Levy's recruitment policy. Yeah. And this is we've, rather than ride the wave of success that Pochettino gave us, he's fought against it, not recognised what he had in his hands, and the players have revolted as a consequence, and therefore it's created this culture of saying, if you're prepared to pay him, blah blah blah, and that's the bubble that has come off the back of the Pochettino success, in my view, and we're suffering massively from it. And Conte is the right manager to call it out. I personally, I want it to work.
Yeah.
I am not at all confident in ENIC or Levy, and I think this is going to end in tears with Conte personally.
This is now Conte is now realizing, and now Conte is obviously. I reckon Conte has gone into the office today, knocked on the door, just left the door open. Come in, Antonio. I'm not coming in. I'm just going to tell you what I've got to tell you. Leave the door ajar. Tell him the facts, and then walk out. Give him this, January, mate. You saw what happened last night. Let's talk in January, and then let's see whether I'm going to stay or I'm going to go. If you're not going to back me in January,
I know. Well, we'll soon find out whether it is the 20 million or the desire to turn Tottenham into a top winning club. And 100%. As long as there's bum on seats, I think Levy his spots might not change.
Yeah. But in all that as well, I've got to agree with a toxic headshot he's saying here. ENIC and Levy are not on the pitch. 100%. The players on the pitch should be doing the job. They're getting paid 100,000 a week to do a job. And if they're not doing that job, if I didn't do my job, or you don't go and do your job on half the wages that these guys are getting, or a quarter, then we'd be sacked. We'd be gone. So why is it any different to these lot? You can't have them getting paid for not doing their job. I've got one more player, Simon Stevens, just before I go on to my final player. Yeah, only reason is because I've got to go football later on. So if I put all my players in, I would have missed my football, and they won't be happy. Simon Stevens is saying here, Conte is the right manager, and he will always be the right manager for any aspiring team. That isn't the right. And this isn't the right moment to bring in a Conte unless you are prepared to go on a major spending spree. Totally agree. And if Conte can't do it, then, like you said, we are doomed. So I've got one more player. I've got a few more, but I think I think there's 3-4 more players, but we'd end up doing an hour and a half. I know you've got one, but what I'll do is I'll do my final one, then I'll allow you to just quickly have one or two that that I've missed not on purpose, but I've missed that I know you're going to mention.
I can just read them out.
Just read them out. But my final one, and everybody's going to be like, yeah, really? Shocked? Not really, because they're going to think shocked at me for saying this.
I know it's going to be.
Unfortunately, enough is enough, right? And I'm not calling this one out. I'm sending in an army to drag him back and that's number 20, Dele. His time is done and dusted at Spurs. Everyone knows I've backed this guy to the cloud, to the hills, to the mountains, for whatever. But enough is enough now, because he does not put in a performance. I've backed him to say he's not been played in the right position, playing as this position, playing there. Unfortunately, you as a professional footballer, wherever you're put in a performance. He did not put in a performance on Thursday. He's not been doing it for a while. And the final straw for me, there was nothing there. And his petulance after the games and all that, it's beyond a joke now. So please, now he has to go. We're not going to get the 30, 40 million that Daniel Levy wants for him. That Dele 3-4 years ago would have got us 40, 50 million. Now we'd be lucky to get 10, because he's shocking. And I think I read on Twitter, and I think I read a few people have said, please go to another club. We still like you. We still want you to be a good footballer, but your time at Spurs is up. Go to the Newcastles, go wherever, come back as a footballer, but you're not going to be a footballer at Spurs.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I Thursday night, I knew you were going to get that out of Dele.
Yeah.
Sessegnon, within, I think it was about 5 minutes, made a really, really good run on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
And he played this beautiful ball down the line towards the byline. And Dele just trotted towards it, and the defender won the ball. And I just said, after 5 minutes, there's your fucking answer.
Yeah.
It's game over, mate. It's game over. If you ever wanted a representative of paycheck players, Dele Alli is it.
Yeah.
You know, it's.
Do you know,
he could go on. He could go on to other clubs and he'll be successful, but you can't use that as the barometer. You can't then, you know, in same with Tanguy. If they do go off and be successful, that's fine. But they weren't for us. So that's what we've got to focus on, not what you could have had. This is what you could have won. You know, it's not like that. They don't operate effectively in this team. No. And I think Dele, out of all of them, I think is probably the cultural issue. Instinctively feels like the cultural, you know, problem.
Yeah.
And the one that Levy knew that 3 years ago or 2.5 seasons ago, he could have got 85 million for him.
Yeah, exactly. And now you're going to not even get a tenth.
Yeah, and that's what irks Levy. I'm sure of it.
This is it.
Which he's still wise around. And this is what Conte and Paratici will be able to say to Levy. Yeah. Get the shit out. You're going to have to spend high, but if you put the recruitment processes in place and the monitoring and the markets, I can tell you, Dele would have been sold at 85 million 2 seasons ago, because they would have said his stock is high. I can see his attitude is trailing. There's an issue starting to appear. Let's get rid.
Yeah.
It would have happened. So we need a mature recruitment process. Everything about this club needs to change root and branch.
100%. And I think Conte now will, because he's made a few cryptic statements, hasn't he, about certain players and attitudes and playing for the badge and wanting to play. And I think he's referring to, I think Dele's one of them, and I think Ndombele is the other one. And as January has to be the time for him to go, whether he sends him out on loan or sell him. But come end of the January transfer window, Dele should not be part of that squad. He should not be involved in any games for Spurs, because it is just not going to happen. And there's a lot of people that agree as well.
He could go out on loan.
He could, but it's whether
if Levy's that astute, which I don't think he is actually, not on a player basis, he can still go out on loan and prove himself.
Yeah.
and
This
you
is
can
it.
have the right contract wrapped around it to say
Yeah.
stay there for a couple of seasons. And if his stock rises that much, you
Yeah.
either buy him for 40, you know.
Yeah, that's it.
It's doable.
Yeah.
But he's got to
I've
go.
absolutely.
Or he's got to stay away from the first team.
Or do that. Yeah. I mean,
You know, send him back to under 23s.
Under 23s. That's another possibility, but you know, he's still going to be at that club, isn't he? And he's then going to start corrupting the under 23s, playing PlayStations and doing his Instagrams and boohoos and whatever.
But then he goes further down the pecking order. You can manage that. You can manage that out.
But I think, you know, just before we move on, I'd just like to thank everyone that's joined us tonight. We've got Craig Bowler, Hotspur Sam, Mr. DP, Simon Stevens, JC, Simply Ace, for OF Below. Thank you everyone for joining in, commenting. If I haven't mentioned it before, please like, subscribe and follow Paxton Road. Top channel, and we're doing a lot of shows. We're doing loads of stuff. So please continue. Join our membership and subscribe as well. We've got a membership, 3-tier membership as well. So please join that. That's my 5 players. There was a lot. Harry Winks was on there as well. There's a few more, but I didn't want to keep it long. Now, just before I ask you for your couple of players, Paul, what I want everyone in the comments box, and if you go on Instagram and even on the community page on Paxton Road TV, is I'm going to put the poll up. Out of the 5 players, can you please rank which? I know everyone's going to say, no, we want all 5 gone in January, but can you rank them 1 to 5, in which order you want them to leave the club? Because I don't think all 5 is going to leave in January. I assume maybe 3 might be a good possibility. So if there was 3 out of 5, including Harry Winks 6, can you please put it on there 1, 2, and 3? Which 3 you want gone the most?
Can I?
Go on, Paul.
I think that's right, but that also helps, you know, create a bit of. It's quite indicative about who comes top, who comes bottom, versus, you know, because you can see the type of have we had enough.
Yeah.
But it's not just about selling. It's not just about selling. And I meant it about Dele, you know, put him into the other squads. You've got to take these players away because they are culturally toxic.
Yeah.
That's the issue. And we knew it. And, you know, we didn't heed Pochettino's words. And ever since he said that, hasn't it come back to bite each and every time? Pochettino knew what was happening. I personally will never forgive Daniel Levy for not backing Pochettino.
100%.
You know,
100%.
I was gutted. You know, I came back from Madrid, had the best time out there, gutted losing it. But I thought, can we use this as a platform? My God, did we fuck that up as a club?
I know. Right, so I think Craig Bowler saying the hardest job is getting rid of those players.
Yeah,
teams that 100%. Totally agree with you there. Dele's number 1. So there we go. Everyone, well, Mr. Deep is saying Dele's number 1. Just before we go, have you got 1 or 2 that you wanted to quickly brief over before I've got to shoot?
Yeah, I'll just list my list. Just because I know we haven't got a lot of time left. And I thought maybe the next one, Sid, was who do we get to replace them all the time? January.
Yeah, that's going to be coming soon. That'll be probably might be next week.
I'll just read out my list.
Go on.
And then I'm not going to ask everyone to vote because it's quite a long list. Because this is a genuine who I think should be gone and certainly nowhere near that first team.
Oh, just one more. Sorry, before you say something. A lot of people, especially the Paxton Road TV crew, will be like, whoa. One player I didn't mention, and the only reason I've not mentioned him is because he's been injured again. But he's my number 1 on the list with Dele joint is GLC. Just to put it out there. So fire away, Paul. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Anyway, he's in my list. So I think if this is a Conte list, I've got Sanchez, Doherty, Harry Winks, Rodon, Lo Celso, Dele Alli, Galini, Ndombele, Tanganga, Jack Clark, and Carter's Vickers.
Yeah.
That's the list, the official list that's in our first team squad.
Yeah.
So a couple of them are out on loan. that's the list which I just think have to be gone out of this club, or certainly nowhere near this squad ever again.
Problem is what you're saying is I totally agree with all of them players, but half of them will go on loan. Jack Clark, the road.
Yeah, no, they might. That's fine. That's fine. So that's fine, but only to increase their value, not to bring them back. Because
I agree.
And then the question marks, which I do think will be contentious for a lot of people. Yeah, you talked about Sessegnon.
Yeah,
I think Stevie B, Bergvin. Again, he seems to be another of these kind of really not sure.
Yeah,
and super contentious at the moment.
Harry Kane.
Not. Do you know what? I had Harry originally, but as a proper contentious. No, it's between Eric Dyer, who I personally think shouldn't be. He can't be under Conte a mature centre back. But what he could do is move forward into that Højbjerg Skips environment. Personally. And then for my question mark is still, I'm starting to question mark Pierre Højbjerg under a Conte regime.
We had
big question mark.
Yeah, we had that discussion last week, didn't we? On talking points, but
certainly Eric Dyer and Sessegnon in that question mark at the top of that tree. Personally, I'd be putting Dyer into that first list of out.
Cool.
I also think culturally he's an issue.
Yeah. Do you know what? I agree, and I think a lot of people on here agree as well. I think Craig Bowlers agrees with your list as well. But the problem we're going to have, and I'm just going to close it down on that, is we have got so many players at that club that we want to get rid of or need to get rid of. But the problem is it's going to be a slow process. Conte can't get rid of every one of them. Yeah. But what he can do is in January, you start the ball rolling, and you try and get to sell 3, loan a couple of them out. That way you're getting rid of some of the dead wood and some of the players that might be the ones that can't be bothered down in tools. Yeah. And then in the summer, you try and get the money, if you can, for the likes of Ndombele and people like that, because you're not going to get much for him in January. You might get something in the summer, but you're just going to have to hold out on that one.
That's why I keep going back to January being so pivotal, because it sends the clear message, and it will have to be through the spine of the squad: centre back, midfield, striker. Yeah, a striker has to come in January, in my book. Yeah, spine of the team to start sending the messages to that list, which you know you can't get rid of. But back to the culture, if you start sending those signals, maybe the Sessegnons are the ones that start to play up. Maybe the likes of Tanguy, maybe even somebody like the Chelsea, who has the talent, in my view, more than Ndombele, to probably go up those levels and say, this shit is real, might give them a stay of grace up till the summer. Yeah, that's it. And that's what we're just going to have to do, aren't we? Is just sit and wait and see what happens in January. It's going to be a slow process, but do you know what? It's like I say, it is what it is. And on that note, I'd like to thank you, Paul, for giving up your Friday evening to come on here. That's all right. My poker night was cancelled. So.
Yeah, that's good. Like I said, it could have been a lot longer, but unfortunately, football calls at 9 o'clock, and if I don't get there, they're not going to be happy. Right, but I'd like to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Like I said to you guys, the community and on Twitter, I'll put the poll up. If you want to say your top 3 players that you would like to see gone in January, and let's see if our poll comes to fruition in January. And on that note, it's goodbye from me.
And it's good night from him. It's that one.